humor spinning like a bullet on a spree. Truth that slices deep, damn it bleeds so free. They don't dress it up, they don't sugar the core. Two battle-worn souls bringing thunder to the floor. Unfiltered fire spin what they've seen. The Unapologetic podcast, raw and obscene. Crushing the lies of an old machine. Shouting for brothers lost unseen. Laughing at the edge where the madness roars. Breaking the silence, pounding through locked doors. Dress it up, they don't sugar the core. Two battle-worn souls bringing thunder to the floor. Unfiltered fire spin what they've seen. The Unapologetic podcast, raw and obscene. Raw and obscene. Raw and obscene.
Welcome, everybody, to the Unapologetic Veterans Podcast. I am the Unapologetic Veteran, and this is my co-host, Stalls.
All right, everybody. So the unofficial launch of the Unapologetic Veterans Podcast.
Crazy, ain't it?
So the first official live recording will be on May 1st, which is a Thursday night. I believe we're the 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central.
No, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Perfect. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, Thursday nights. All of this is brought to you by Heroes Media Group, also Homefront Sit Rep. Tonight, we've got an awesome guest, good friend of mine. I've known him for, ever since I got to Florida. And really and truthfully, he is the current commander of the VFW post in Fort Pierce. And just an awesome dude, U.S. Army retired, Christopher Armstrong, or as everybody knows him as Bear. What is going on, Bear?
Hey,
man.
How you guys doing?
Oh, just living, man.
Living the dream.
Or somebody else's nightmare. I'm not sure which yet, but we'll find out shortly. I imagine.
I know one person who's going through a nightmare right now, and that is
absolutely
Shador Sanders. Oh my gosh! So a little draft drama, if for those of you who aren't following, Shador Sanders' dad, Deion Sanders, promised that he was going to be a top 5 pick, and then now we are currently in the 3rd round in the high 20s.
Yeah,
He's still not picked.
No, we are currently round 3, pick 27. Baltimore's on the clock, and it's not looking good. Not looking good at all.
So let's talk about this. So Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter both get their numbers retired at Colorado. Number one, only one of them I think deserved it. Travis Hunter, Ironman through college. I mean, who's the last Iron Man to actually put up the numbers that Travis Hunter?
Probably Deion Sanders.
Right, probably Deion Sanders.
Or Bo Jackson.
So true Iron Man guy, right? So I agree with that number being retired. The number 12 at Colorado should have been retired. But Shador Sanders, the guy is at best a mediocre quarterback. So
he's better than I am, but that's not saying a whole lot.
So Bear, you are a Buccaneers fan. How's the draft going for you right now?
I got to tell you, I went to Raymond James Stadium yesterday, which is where the Bucs play, and I attended the first round draft there at the stadium, which was awesome, right? Shitty pick, absolute terrible freaking pick. Okay, nobody wanted a wide receiver at number 1, but today we picked up a cornerback in the second round draft, which is exactly what we needed
Who'd y'all pick?
Desperately. This cat named Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame.
Okay.
So cornerbacks really don't have their names out there that much as far as the flashier players, but they're the most freakish athletes on the field. So, but we needed them desperately because we make the most basic quarterbacks look like Tom Brady out here. So we need to stop that.
So I'm historically a Minnesota Vikings fan.
How?
Right,
How?
So all right. So I grew up in Minnesota during the Randy Moss, Randall Cunningham, John Randall, Chris Carter era. Right, that 1999
when they were actually good.
When they were freaking awesome. All right. So basically, if you look at all the teams that I follow, it has to do with the fact of where we were living at the time and whether or not it was the first professional game or first college game or whatever that I had gone to. So the first professional football game I ever went to was a Minnesota Vikings football game. So for me, it was awesome. Herbert H. Humphrey Dome, which isn't there anymore. It's now been replaced by US Bank Stadium. But to watch Chris Carter, Randy Moss, and a backup Randall Cunningham, you got
Jalen Milroe just got drafted.
Oh wow!
That
over
makes
Shador.
Over Shador. He's going to Seattle.
Nice. So you got to think at this time, Brad Johnson was the starting quarterback for the Vikings in '99. Yeah, and he broke his thumb. So Randall Cunningham, who had been picked up in a trade with the Dallas Cowboys, had come over to the Minnesota Vikings, and he stepped in as a backup, and they went 15-1. I mean, the only loss that they had was, a really crappy loss, and then to lose on a field goal. Anderson misses the field goal, and that was all she wrote. Overtime, Falcons win. Falcons get the crap beat out of them by Denver, and Denver wins the Super Bowl. So John Elway wins his Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So go figure. That's how I became a Vikings fan.
Well, I mean, it can't be too bad. I'm by nature a Lions fan, and we've been trash for pretty much ever.
Yeah, but last
pretty
year
much ever.
I know. I'm a big fan of Motor City Dan Campbell, though.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm a huge fan of Motor City Dan Campbell.
I wish more coaches were like him.
I hear he still runs freaking linebacker drills.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. Dude, they'll be the Lions post clips of him all the time just doing the wildest stuff. And I'm like, for what, dude? You don't play no more.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. Like, Detroit used to be a shithole, a terrible place. The Lions are back in good standing. The Red Wings aren't half bad anymore. The Tigers aren't half bad. So, I mean,
Orange still sucks.
And the Pistons made the playoffs for the first time in, 20 years. So, and they got a win. So, I mean, Motor City's looking up. I don't know. I don't think they're ever going to get over that hump, though.
You never know. I feel the same way about Minnesota. You got to think. When it comes to football teams, I'm cursed because I'm an Auburn Tigers college football fan.
Boy.
Yeah, and a Minnesota Vikings football fan. So it's hard for me to watch us be really, really awesome all season and then get to the playoffs and shit the bed. So
and lose to Detroit. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah,
I promise you, it's okay.
Lose to Detroit again.
Yeah, right. But hey, nothing's worse than being a Tennessee Titans fan. I'll tell you what. Will Levis is going to fix the Titans. He's doing the surrender cobra, as they call it around here.
Wow.
But hey, Cam Ward, we'll see. We'll see what he can do. I don't know. I mean, this season's got the chance to be pretty crazy with some of these draft picks and some of the way the teams are moving people around. Who knows? Maybe Josh Allen will finally get over the hump, I guess. Probably not, but
we'll see. So we gotta make bets on where Shador Sanders ends up as far as a pick, or if he's even a pick, or do you think he goes
He'll
undrafted?
get picked. No, he'll get picked.
All right. So what round, Bear? If you had to say what round, what pick?
I mean, I would have thought he would have got picked already, to be honest. But at some point in time, the drama doesn't outweigh the value of the pick because he's already a steal at this point. Like he's getting paid nothing. He makes more in college than he's going to get paid on this draft.
Now, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. So
Very true.
Somebody's going to see a solid backup or hopefully a resurgence. Maybe. I don't really know. It could be anywhere. I have no idea.
So you think 4th round, maybe?
Maybe. I mean, if people, I think the problem is they don't want the player to be. I mean, we saw the same thing with what's the other guy that was just super drama?
Baker Mayfield.
No.
Money Manziel.
No. Well, you could say Manziel. Like people didn't want the player to take more attention away from the team.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to get with Shador. You're going to get that this player is more famous than the team, and people are going to be just watching him and not watching the team. So they don't want.
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much told all the NFL teams that he doesn't really care.
Yeah, Kaepernick.
Yeah. But he was actually good.
That's what I'm saying. Like Shador's pretty good. Let's not say he's not good. Like he's pretty good. But it's the point of when does the drama or the negative that you bring to the team outweigh? Like they don't want to deal with the headache. They'd rather suck for another 5 years and deal with your bullshit.
Yeah.
Like that's just the truth. They're here to stay for 30 years. You're here for like 5, 6.
I think part of his problem is his dad, not necessarily in a bad way, but because his dad is who he is, and Dion has been Dion forever. He's been the same way. He hasn't changed. And I think to some degree his son thinks that he can come in with the same swag, the same bravado, and just, oh, well, I'm the best. Who cares about my attitude? I'm the best. Let's win. And there's teams that are looking at that like, well, we kind of actually care about your attitude. Like we want a good team guy, a good family man, basically, as John Harbaugh would say.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see though. The Browns are on the clock. The pick is in. I'm watching this. I don't know. I think there's not many quarterbacks left that.
I'm saying 5th round, medium, like mid 5th round.
Yeah, just a good solid guess.
Good solid guess. Mid 5th round.
Sounds good to me.
Hey, look. Mid 5th round, and if he's picked before that, I owe both of y'all a beer. How about that?
Oh, that's nice. I'll drink that.
I'll take a bourbon, but either way, that works.
Okay, all right, absolutely. I'll tell you what, I'll a 4 roses, neat.
Okay. We can do that.
All right, cool.
Four roses is solid.
So, Chris, so I know that you were U.S. Army. You went to Benning. You're one of the Benning boys,
right?
As they would say. So tell me a little bit. So where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Things like that. Yeah.
So I'm from Indiantown, Florida. Indiantown is it's like a migrant town, to be honest. Back in the day, before the diseases hit the crops down here in Florida, everything was orange groves. So Indiantown was a town surrounded by orange groves, and everybody that pretty much lived inside of Indiantown proper was pretty much workers for those groves, basically. The Army was a kind of a way for me to get the fuck out of there, to be honest. It was just like mediocrity. It was like, you're going to stay here and you're just going to be this forever, or get the hell out of here and go somewhere. So joined the Army in 01, May, right after graduation, and joined infantry. Went to Fort Benning, Georgia. While I was in basic training, towards the end is when 9/11 hit, and that's kind of when everything kind of came into focus, and the drill sergeant stopped. I remember that we were out on the range. Captain Doty, our company commander, or the basic training company commander, came out, and he had tears in his eyes. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. We were over here just shut up and color, right? Fucking do push-ups or run. And he came over with tears in his eyes. He was like, we got to go in. And we all went in to the company, back out of the field to the company. And that's when we got to see on the TV, because we didn't get TV rights or privileges or anything, but they rolled this TV out of the day room where all the DIs were. And we got to see, the planes hitting the buildings. And they looked at us, they're like, you guys are about to have a different career than we did. And that's when, everything became real. So after that, just kind of back and forth from overseas. Did 5 tours overseas as an infantryman, and then got medically retired at 15 years from some kind of a sequester budget drawdown type thing. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So when you were at Fort Benning, 9/11 happens. Now, at the time, Fort Benning was an open base. Like, anybody could go on base. Anybody could go anywhere, other than maybe where Ranger Battalion was. And you could just venture out and look at everything. So what happened during that time? Because I listened to your podcast, and I know you said it was you guys kind of went through a different kind of training at that point.
Yeah, it was so almost all military bases were like this, by the way, back then. It's hard to realize that now. It's hard to picture that
wild.
now.
It's wild to even imagine.
It is wild. Bases used to be just a pass-through deal. And that's why they card you at the PX and the gas stations and the commissaries and all that, because you had to have IDs to buy shit, but everybody could just drive through. There were no gates, only on specific installations. Bragg, I think you had to get carded to get on a Bragg, I think, because, but in other places. But a lot of the big, you guys should understand, Army installations are gigantic. They take up portions of states. You know what I mean? So
right, because Fort Benning spans over into Alabama.
Yeah, Fort Benning's half in Georgia, half in Alabama. It's about 180,000 square kilometers.
Jesus.
Yeah. So a lot of impact areas. You know what I mean? So anyway, so 9/11 hit, and then we went to, they changed the DEF CON, they changed the Threat CON, they changed all these things, right? And we don't know anything about this. I'm a freaking 18-year-old, 19-year-old freaking high-speed individual.
And told.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden we started putting all these, those poles, those little like metal pole barriers that they have around all the buildings that come out of the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ballast.
So you can't drive out of there. Those weren't in existence like that before that. So all those had to get put in. And then everywhere, like on Fort Benning, for example, that you find a gate now, there was no gate. They dropped off armed soldiers to stop traffic at those points. And I was at one of the points. And I mean, we didn't have a full combat load. We had like 60 rounds or some shit. But they dropped us off. And it was like, you don't let anybody on here without an ID. And I remember specifically, we couldn't let people, it'd be a whole family. And like, if the wife didn't have her ID, she had to wait at the gate. We say the gate now, but she had to wait at our checkpoint. Dad had to go freaking home, get her ID and come back. You know what I mean? He could take the kids with him, and she couldn't come in. There was no exceptions. We didn't know what the hell was going to happen. All the motor pools were locked down. The airfield was locked down. We thought everything was going to get attacked. It was like, what the hell is happening? What's coming next? And that was crazy. And then from that point on, since, until now, all these posts are locked down. You can't get on the post without showing your ID card at the gate. Little whack and hut guy freaking. But that didn't exist before.
Right.
And people just freely drove through because a lot of these bases and these posts are on main highways. Like a main highway terminates inside of a post.
Right. I can only imagine the traffic that came off of I-80 or I-185 and Victory Drive right there, where the main gate is now. Mm-hmm. And just imagine the traffic backup from people turning around, being told they can't come on base.
Yep.
Like I imagine it was crazy.
But it wasn't evil though. When I say evil, I mean there wasn't a lot of cocksuckers out there.
Right.
Because do you remember back then?
So
I was in 6th grade on 9/11.
Yeah, I'm about to say. So 9/11, I was in 9th grade. I was in freshman English.
When this shit happened, everybody gave a fuck. Everybody and your mother was patriotic.
Absolutely.
I've never seen any time more patriotic than around 9/11.
100%.
Not only did nobody know really what the hell was going on, everybody took it like somebody slapped their mom in the face. Like, I mean, think about that feeling. If you show up as a dude, right now, you go home and you watch this guy just walk off the street, slap your mom in the face. That's how every single American felt.
Right.
And they were ready to stand up and like do some shit. So nobody cared. Like if you got inconvenienced, everybody was like, all right, got it, and they were good. There was no fighting. There was no nothing. Everybody, I've never seen so many American flags in my life. The little American flags, it was like crazy. Yeah.
Millions of them everywhere.
It was crazy. Everybody understood. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, by the way. I'm not going to sit here and act like I was a consummate professional at this fucking checkpoint. But I didn't know what the fuck was going on. They told us, hey, here's fucking your magazines, don't let anybody in, unless you check this. And we had mirrors checking underneath the cars and all this shit. And it was crazy. But we had support from the population, even though it was inconvenient,
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it takes something of that magnitude to truly bring a country together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was no question. Everybody was together. Everybody was. If you needed a hand, hey, I got you. Let me help you.
Yeah.
5, 10 seconds, 15 minutes, didn't matter. People were there to help.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not the same today.
No, it was home team, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Today you've got so much division that it's almost hard. You can't even recognize some people by just how they carry themselves anymore, because you don't know. You just don't know nowadays who is on what side, because our country is so divided. But you're right. At that time now, like if you had to look at it back now with a different lens, that was probably the most united this country had been since Pearl Harbor.
Right? Yeah, probably. Yeah. That was the last attack on us.
Right.
To be honest, I mean that's the last time somebody slapped your freaking cousin. You know what I mean? It was like, where you at? Grab the boys. Like it. It. And this is kind of the the pendulum. Like we do what we do. We did what we did, so that they could suck right now today, saying the shit that they say.
Right.
I mean, that's what it is. So we live for the high times, but we got to deal with the low times, and we just can't assume the system's broke when we are in the low times. I think we're in a low time.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So
9/11 happens. You're
Mhm.
at Fort Benning. What's going through? So barracks talk real quick, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure when you guys get back to the barracks at night, you guys are talking.
Yeah.
Like, so what was the barracks talk like when you guys got back at night, sharing your stories and shit?
I mean, for us, there was very few people that had actually seen combat at this time. I mean, seriously, like you saw them because they were wearing the combat patches, right? You were just like, oh, that motherfucker's seen some shit. Like,
Yeah.
looking at me.
What was it?
Right, because
Desert
at that
Storm,
time,
Desert Shield. Was
Yeah.
there
Desert
anything
Storm,
prior to that?
Desert Shield, or Somalia?
There was some that were like we had some Mogadishu folks,
Yeah.
like 10th Mount guys or some Ranger Regiment guys. My unit, you got to understand, my unit being on Fort Benning was a lot of Ranger rejects come out of there. A lot of people getting kicked out of Ranger Regiment for whatever the case may be. Still good folks. They just, stepped on their dick or whatever, and they would get shit over to Kelly Hill where I was. You know what I mean? So you had some folks with some combat experience per se, but it was very rare. But they were higher ranking. They weren't in the barracks, like you say. They weren't in there talking to us. I will say that the barracks talk was like what you think it was. It was, F these mamma jammas, like we're gonna freaking go mess these dudes. I mean, you understand, put yourself in a young infantry dude's freaking mindset. You're bulletproof. You're full of shit. You think you're the toughest guy on the planet, and of course you just graduated basic training, so obviously you're the most freaking lethal dude on the planet, right?
Yeah, take on anything.
So that was the mindset. We didn't have a whole lot. There was no E4s and E5. The only E4s and E5s that had any kind of experience were some Ranger guys, and there is a drastic difference between the experience overseas in a Ranger regiment and what we do. So we can't even compare those stories. It's, they get a lot more leeway. They get a lot more responsibility and things of that nature. It's not as, big of a, in my opinion, a shit show or a suck fest as, we deal with. And I don't mean like the danger. I mean like the bullshit that goes along with going overseas. Guard duty, like all the stupid shit that goes along with it. But
right. So barracks talks was what you expect.
It was F these motherfuckers. Like we're about to go over there and kick some ass, like this, that, and the other. And that's what it was. We were mad. We couldn't believe that they did this. They thought that, like, you felt like you were getting punked. We also knew I don't know what the word is, but we also kind of knew, like, we're the ones going over there,
right?
Like, so it's like Marines. You think you're the best at that point.
Hey, just saying.
It's definitely not true, but you think it. You were told it in basic training, so you think it, and you were confident. And I mean that shit breeds confidence.
The confidence is what drove that wave.
That's right. So you feel like I joined for this. This is what we are training for. Let's go and do this. Boom. And it's like that's it. That was really the mentality in the barracks until you got a hold of these older cats, which did wind up talking to you. The older guys, the E7s and up, that's where the combat guys were. Right. That's where the right sleeve. That's where the combat guys were. They would talk to you and they would be like, "You don't want this, man," whatever. And we're like, "Yeah, we do."
You're so young and arrogant to the fact that what's really out there. And
yeah, I would say but at the same time, they didn't experience what we're experiencing now.
Yeah.
Nobody crashed into a building in Desert Storm. You know what I mean? Nobody assaulted our country in Vietnam. You know what I mean? Nobody did these things. And now it's like, it's a picture like your sister or your mom or somebody outside. They got slapped in the face and they turn around and look at you. What are you going to do about it? Right? That's what we were looked at. That's how we felt. Like they had never felt like that. They were there to be told, you know, and this is in my mind. I'm not, you know, talking shit about anybody else, but it's like we just got slapped. You know what I mean? Our whole country just got slapped in the face. And boom, and then the country turns at us and be like, what you gonna do about it? You know, and it's like, let's go fucking handle business.
Let's go raise some hell.
That's what it felt like. And so that was the main difference between the Gulf War guys, you know, like the Desert Storm guys, and the Cold War guys, you know, the Panama Grenada, the Mogadishu, all these guys. Yeah. All these cats. They even the what's the other place? Not Czechoslovakia, freaking
Bosnia, Kosovo.
Yeah, Kosovo. Like even these guys, it's like none of y'all got slapped in the. Your whole country didn't get slapped in the face, and it said, "Hey, you go handle us. Like go defend our honor." It's like now you feel like you got a duty, you know.
Right.
So it felt good, but it was scary at the same time.
Right. So not long after 9/11, you find yourself over in Kuwait. And I thought it was funny when you were talking about it on your podcast that you were like, you know, we were in shitholes like Camp Doha. Because there's not very many people who understand how shitty Doha really was.
Doha was shitty. It was better than the balls, but
right. And then you got Camp Buring. And places
Arif
like
John.
that, Arif John, exactly. So when you're over in Kuwait, and then you guys get sent home in around January of 2003, or December of 2002.
2002, yeah,
right. So you're home for a month.
That's right.
And then they're like, "Hey, guess what? We're taking your ass back to Kuwait." And
yeah, hold on, it's better than that. It's better than that. It's hey, it's beginning of we got back in November. We went from May to November in Kuwait. Got back at the very end of November. So in the beginning of December, we're filling out block leave forms to go on block leave, right? Because Lord knows we can't have a fucking day off unless everybody's got a fucking day off.
Right.
But so we got these block leave forms in, and we're just sitting back ready to go, right? Because we think we just sucked for like 6-7 months. Like we're just going to be left alone and get to go home and whatever. And they said, yeah, block leave's been canceled. You're getting a 4-day. So we got a 4-day for the holidays. For no reason, by the way. Because we wound up redeploying in January, beginning of January. So they could have told us, but you know, there was this idea that everybody was going to tell like Russia or something or world leaders that we were deploying in January, and like it was going to give up the goods.
God forbid.
Yeah, but they canceled our block leave and they gave us like a 4-day pass, and then we redeployed in the beginning of January to Kuwait to prep for the invasion.
So 4-day pass, did you go home back to Florida or did you hang out?
I came down here. Okay. I came down here.
I was about to say, you weren't one of those guys that ended up at Scruffy Murphy's there on Broad Street.
No, that's a standard weekend.
So I spent some time, obviously, in Fort Benning. So in the Columbus area, after I got out, I went to Columbus State. So
we'll see us Cougars.
That's right. Go Cougs.
Cougars.
So you know, Scruffy Murphy is obviously Ranger Bar. Like, right? The Rangers claim it; it's theirs.
According to the Rangers.
According to the guys from 75th and 3rd Battalion. But you know, you got places like the Tap.
Oh yeah, Tap's good.
Yeah. the loft, right?
Big city.
So, and some of those places are still around. Obviously, Scruffy Murphy's, the Cannon Brewery.
The Cannon, dude! I forgot about the Cannon.
Right. So they had a sandwich there called the Monte Cristo, and
that's a sandwich. That's a pretty popular sandwich.
Right. But their Monte Cristo is about this thick and about this big. Like you can't see it on camera, but it's huge. It's a huge sandwich.
Huge.
It's
huge.
But so the Cannon was awesome. The Cannon, obviously, very awesome place. So 4-day pass, you go home, you come back, then you're headed over to Kuwait again.
Yeah.
So now, when you guys were in Kuwait, were y'all staying in GP mediums, or were you guys in the big bubble tents at the time?
So the second time we came back, when we came back in January, we stayed in the circus tents, the white tents.
Yeah.
That our whole company stayed in one tent, like type deal. Yeah.
Sounds about right. How many people can we fit inside this tent?
By the way, the number is 145, and that's if your bunks are about this far apart.
By the way, it's all of them.
The real question is, how many people can you fit in a porta-john?
Or a cattle truck.
So it's been done. There's actually a video on YouTube somewhere.
The cattle truck?
No, that shows the guys who are doing breaching.
They breach a
porta-john. It's like 11 dudes stack up on the door
dude,
and breach a freaking porta-john, and 11 dudes, all 11 dudes, get inside this porta-john.
That's ridiculous.
So you know someone is standing in the blue dye, like you know it's happening.
It ain't me.
All right.
So we went. So in the first, so the May through November train up. First off, we didn't know what we were training up for. Just throwing it out there. All right. We were just training in the fucking desert, just for shits and giggles. Like nobody told us shit. And it was Cold War training. It was Cold War training all the way until about 2004, 2005, and we switched over to COIN, which is counterinsurgency type shit.
Right.
But it was always Cold War before that, you know.
Right. So straight up
trench warfare. Yeah, all that shit.
Right.
But we stayed in 12-man tents, you know, with the flaps open like you see on the movies, like the fucking tan tents.
Right. The GP medium.
No, the GP medium was a little bit bigger. That was the like, canvas green tents. This is like the fucking tan tents that look like they got windows, but you just have it open. We had those. But then when we came back in January, we had the big ass circus tents. But you know what made it awesome was we got the smallpox vaccination. While in those, right?
Ooh.
And let me tell you, man, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. So they got it all. None of us could like get off the cot, and below our cots was just a massive puddle of sweat because nobody could get off their cot, but you were sweating your ass off.
That's rough.
And these douchebags, would come by and drop ice off, but they would throw it at the door of the tent, like the opening, the flap of the tent, and just leave it. Right. So by the time all of us became like able to move, we went out there. It's just a big ass fucking pile of bags where like those bags used to have ice in them. And it was horrible. And then they were like, don't freaking put your scab in the garbage. Look, all this bullshit about fucking doing that. But that's what made that most, like, that's what sucked the most about it. And then shout out to the 101st for being a bunch of freaking pansies, not being able to live in the goddamn desert. Okay. 101st gets deployed over. I'm a little emotional about this. They don't have the necessary equipment to live in the desert. So we got kicked out of our tents to go set up tactical alphas in the middle of the desert to sleep in the sand so that the 101st could sleep in tents. So suck it.
Wow.
That's all I'm saying.
So you were mechanized infantry, right? So did you guys sleep in the Bradleys or just
No.
No,
we
just straight out in the sand.
So it's better in the sand. It's
Right.
just better in the sand. So the idea is you're not supposed to sleep in the Bradleys, by the way. Not saying people don't. When it's different. Like when you're back like in the States and it's fucking pouring down rain, people are gonna pile in the back of the Bradley, right? Nobody's, whatever. I don't care what anybody says. But over there, like you're part of the 360 degrees. You're part of the perimeter security. You know what I mean? It's the same. You use your Bradleys as mobile support by fires, right? You use your Bradleys as mobile crew serves, basically. So that's how they function. The crews can sleep inside, but typically you're still a force like ready to like get up and like do something outside. So for us, we sleep like make sure the Bradleys, what they would do is they can go along the freaking perimeter and they would like do like a little pivot like back and forth, whatever, and they bust up all that freaking sand. So whoever's comfy as shit laying in that sand. And a lot of times you just move the sand out of the way and it was cool underneath it. But we didn't have problems staying out there. These guys just, and I wouldn't have said that if this guy I didn't go to basic training with. His name, we called him Tooth because he has snaggle teeth. Call him Tooth. That wasn't my name. Girls aren't named Tooth. I saw him they brought a PX truck out, like a semi-trailer thing out to the place. And called New Jersey. That's what the place is called, New Jersey. They brought it out there, and I saw him in line because I just needed some Copenhagen, goddammit. I didn't need anything. And I
gotta
go in
have
there.
that nicotine.
I'm just saying, if you want me to be a nice person, I need to have Copenhagen back then. And I'm in line. This fucking line looks like the new iPhone's coming out today. Out. It's going to Jordan from here. You know what I mean? And I see Tooth, and I'm like, Tooth, and I'm thinking like I'm gonna get the hookup. Like, yo, let me get in line, dude. Like he's not that far from the front. Tooth's like, he points to the CIB. He's like, we already did this. I'm like, well, you can go fuck yourself. And then from then on, when we got kicked out, I was like, this is Tooth's fault.
Oh, shit.
Tooth can suck it.
So I'm guessing he had gone over to Afghanistan.
He did Anaconda.
Gotcha.
So the Afghanistan 2001. I don't know what part he took. I'm guessing he pulled perimeter security. I'm not giving him a lick of fucking credit. He could have let me in line to get some Copenhagen.
Hey, look,
who doesn't let their boy in line to get some Copenhagen?
Right. That's the unapologetic way. I mean,
facts.
So, all right. So you're in Kuwait. You're training to go obviously over the berm. Mm-hmm. March 2003 comes along. You guys go over. Mm-hmm. So how was that?
So we didn't do any training from January to March. From January to March was basically preparations. We had to change a lot of things. They implemented a lot of different standards. Number one, getting the fucking op order. Think to yourself, getting an op order for a fucking invasion, right? It was an op order.
How many pages was that op order?
There was no, at my level, I was a private, so there was no written op order. I didn't receive an op order. I attended the op order. Basically, the sand, basically, okay, they brought us in a GP large tent, and the entire floor was satellite imagery. And we walked along the satellite imagery along the fucking axis of advance, right? So we just basically showed like how we're going to move, where we're going to hit, not necessarily going into granularity about like what we're doing at the specific objectives, but just like we're going to move here, we're going to take over this place, and then we're going to move there. Like if everything goes according to plan, right? And of course, like as soon as we cross the berm, nothing goes to plan, right? But this whole time before then was we had to, I don't know if you can look up videos of like like the vehicles crossing the border and the invasion and shit like that, they have these markers on their vehicles that have like a number and like some kind of an arrow, some kind of like chevron, either face to the right, up, left, whatever. There was these marking mechanisms that we had to install on all the vehicles that would tell them what unit and what platoon and everything it was. The arrows, the chevrons, dictated what platoon you were in based on the orientation of the arrow. The number was the unit. It's like 52, 55, 58, whatever. We didn't know what the fuck 57 meant. Somebody else did. Somebody up above.
It was above your pay grade.
Yeah. We also had thermal panels installed on the side of vehicles. So what they would do is these aluminum panels that were like kind of like I don't know how to describe it, like ridges, like a lightning, strike, like steps. They would go on the side of your vehicles, everybody's vehicle, and they were the same panels. They would go inside of everybody's vehicles, and they were aluminum because they dissipate heat pretty quickly. And in thermals, those would show up black. They would show up cold. And that way, in a desert, in a sandstorm, you understand, in the invasion, there were times when there was just enemies and friendlies mixed, and you know what I mean. So it's hard to tell who's who. Vehicles, it's hard to tell who's who. We did a lot of train up on like identifying vehicle outlines, vehicle like profiles, things of that nature, identifying vehicles. But it's hard to tell sometimes in the heat of the shit. So all that was getting the vehicles and your equipment fitted for that. That's what that. Oh, and also receiving the special types of ammunition that you only get when you're doing those kinds of, like, going into a war. All the depleted uranium, all the
good stuff,
all the actual type of missiles and stuff like that you get. All of that was being delivered and being, when we had to upload. I actually have some pictures of that, I think. And so that's what that was. It was a prep. It was like a 3-month prep. We didn't know what day we were crossing until like probably the day before, because the day before we all staged in this massive formation. And I say we, I mean like the entire fucking force, the entire multinational force was staged in some type of I think they called it like a desert logger formation. All of Kuwait, as far as you could see, was all vehicles. And this is the night before we crossed. And all you could see, this is when the shock and awe shit was going down. And it looked like the 4th of July. Like, it was crazy. There was just bombs going off everywhere. MLRS systems were doing nothing but shoot fucking. It was going crazy. We were in MOP 4. Well, we were in MOP 3. And we were in J-list, whatever the fucking MOP level that is. We were in full J-list, boots. We just didn't have the mask on. And because we thought they had shot some scuds, but they didn't shoot them at us. They shot them elsewhere. But and that was it. We were told, like, hey, tomorrow morning is when we're freaking crossing. We didn't know when, we didn't know what we were doing, this, that, and the other. And it's sure as shit, man. Like, they did that all through the night. And it was just bombing all night. The next morning, across the line, and it was a full day of travel and seeing fucking nothing. Like, what you saw was like fucking blown out hulls of tanks everywhere in this open desert environment. Because the open desert is where they lose, right?
Right.
You're just not going to win. And we drove all day until the night again. And the night is where we hit contact. And that's when really it fucking kicked off. Is for us, it was Talil Air Base, which was in southern Iraq. It was what was called Objective Firebird. And then we were supposed to go in, my unit was supposed to go in past Objective Firebird and attack Engagement Area Liberty, which was at Nasiriyah, and which was where the 11th Infantry Regiment was headquartered. I'll tell you, man, we rolled up to the freaking, we rolled up to that bitch, and the first thing I ever seen that was combat related, other than these jets doing, it was pretty cool, by the way. Just other than these jets just blowing shit up. I didn't know what they were blowing up. It was just flashes. And then if you took thermals and looked up in the sky, you could see the jets like fucking hit the afterburners and like go all over. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I was a little kid. But the first thing I ever saw of combat was a T-72 turret go flying through the air and land over by our freaking tracks. Damn. And I didn't know what it was. It was a fireball, like some trebuchet from this fucking barbarian horde. We're like, oh, there's a fireball coming, but it landed, and I saw it, and I was like, damn, that's a fucking turret. I learned later, like, that's just normally what happens when they, blow up. But yeah, damn. And then it was just kind of nonstop, for a while.
So how long did that go on before you guys started setting up forward operating bases and stuff like that?
We didn't. I don't know, because now we're talking about like plays on words, because to be honest, all that is kind of a play on words. What is a fob? Like I don't know what they're calling these places. I didn't hear the word fob until I came back on my next deployment.
Gotcha.
I will say that for us, we went through the invasion. We got to a point. I don't know what day it was on, but I'm assuming it was around whatever day they say is the end of the, invasion or whatever, where they needed to yank us off the streets. I mean, we were still fucking people up. And they came out and they were like, hey, fucking game off, dude. Like what do you mean game off? This motherfucker shot at us, like he's running, get him. We're like, no, game off, And we're like,
time out.
Yeah, right. And so they had to literally remove us off the street, and not just us. Like we weren't some kind of special badasses or anything. I think it was just we're just used to this invasion type of mindset, like what we had just been going through.
Right.
And you can't just switch, because they literally wanted us to switch and start like policing traffic or some shit. And we're like, it wasn't working. So they had to remove us. And they put us over by what's now, or what became like Victory Base. The Green Zone. They had this like Antenna Hill like thing. Before that was Antenna Hill, we used to like do PT on it. But they removed us. They said, don't do anything, just relax. And we literally sat there and relaxed. Like we slept in. We didn't do shit for like weeks. It felt like weeks. I think it was weeks. And decompressed, basically. Because we couldn't immediately start seeing this country for anything other than the one that we were just invading.
Right. It's tough to stop what you're doing after going balls to the wall for however long straight. You can't there's no hard stop.
That's right. Yeah. And so there was a problem with that. So they did that, and then they started putting us back on like some shit downtown and stuff. But that still didn't work, because we were just too aggressive with them, and we were very standoffish. We didn't really trust them. You have to look at these people as people. You have to look at these people as possible good people.
Exactly.
Treat them with respect in order to get along and do your job well. And at that point in time, it just wasn't like.
Well, it's because
that was a task for us. Like we couldn't do it.
It's because your enemy looks like
they
look like your friends. There's no difference in their appearance. It's not like they're wearing uniforms like Marines or Army or Air Force. You have different uniforms. They look the same.
Yeah. Well, some of them did. We fought some military units, and those were easy. Those were easier to deal with. I'm not gonna say those were just easy, but those are definitely easier to deal with. We were able to overcome them pretty quickly. It was the ones where we didn't look at as military. You know what I mean? For us, I mean, we've never engaged these people. We've never seen a bunch of people dressed like this or that act like this or whatever. This is the beginning. You know what I mean? This is new. And I remember that. I mean, this is my memory, and I hope that it's correct. But I remember that like we had an issue with getting resupplied in the very beginning, and it's because there was this particular support group that. Anyway, there was an issue with like people wanting to send females to the front lines, and they were a part of support groups that would be a part of that and stuff. And I remember General Tommy Franks was the commanding general at the time of the invasion, and like he made it happen. He like got us our support, this and the other. But we also, when we crossed the border, we had an ROE that was tighter than anything you've ever seen, and we made jokes about it. Like we would say, hey, listen, if your buddy gets shot, only his battle buddy and his battle buddy alone is allotted 3 rounds to shoot back. You know, like we used to make these jokes, dude.
What exactly was your ROE at that time?
Well, the ROE, there was a lot of like wolf, you know, type of like shit thrown out. A lot of like warn, oppose, lock and load, fire. Like there was a lot of like shout, show, shove, shoot. Like it was. If they're shooting at you, you basically need to attempt first to get them to stop shooting. You know what I mean? There was this, I guess it's coming from this mindset that they were just so not going to hit you with their bullets that you would just fucking convince them to stop shooting and lower their weapon.
I need you to put your gun down. Yeah. Please. Yeah. Come on. We can do this.
Please stop shooting at me, sir.
So, you know, and I personally didn't have an issue with it. I never ran into a situation where like I had a guy shooting at me and I'm like, I'm gonna need you to lower your weapon there, Shirley. I personally did not, but there were so many reports that at least that I was getting, and it could have been full of shit. I don't know. But these are the reports I was getting. This is what I was hearing. Is that so many people got fucked over by this. Because you got to understand the dish dash, like the man dress, like it, you could hide a bunch of shit under that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what they were doing is like we would go by and we wouldn't treat them anyway because they don't pose a threat. Pass them by, these guys just shoot you in the ass. Now they wouldn't necessarily just kill people left and right, but they'd fuck a vehicle up or like, you know, whatever from the rear.
Right, because at the time you're in soft vehicles, right? You're not in hard.
We are not. We are not. We are in armored vehicles. The Humvees, so the rule in the invasion was there were no wheeled vehicles or soft vehicles, that were allowed within 50 meters or 500 meters, I think 50 meters of the flot. So the forward line of troops. So wherever your forward advance is, like you can't even be near it. Like you have to be back, and they call that the train. So you're in the train, and all of the hard vehicles, the tracked vehicles, all that shit, everybody was up front. You can't even be in a wheeled vehicle unless you were an up armored scout vehicle. And you were doing scout stuff, which is, you know, finding the enemy, breaking contact, coming back, telling the main force where the enemy is, and then the enemy goes in, or then the force goes and attacks.
Right.
That was the only exception. Everybody else was way behind the line, like with artillery, for example. So there was we were worried about the wheels getting shot out, basically. We weren't, I don't know about, I'm sure the concern was like losing people, but I think that they were more concerned with like, okay, these wheels could get shot out. They're going to stay in the back. The track vehicles are going to handle all the fire or whatever. Yeah.
Because people get stranded.
We were expecting a shit ton of tanks. We were expecting a ton of tanks. And we did see a ton of tanks, but half of them were unmanned.
Right.
I think they just dipped out. They deserted their tanks. A lot of folks just knew they were fucked. So they kind of dipped out. So.
Gotcha. So invasion is over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, fast forward, you do 5 combat deployments.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing because at this time, you know, at least in your podcast, you talk about, you know, fast forward 15 years and you're getting out on a retirement because of whatever. So injuries, tell me about the stuff you struggled with when you came home. The fighting's over with, you're home. What did you struggle with the most?
Like between deployments or just
Either between deployments or in general.
I got to be honest, man. The life of an infantry guy kind of it kind of hides a lot of that shit. It's acceptable to be a dickhead. Just to be real, you know, like it's acceptable to be an asshole. Let's just say it's not out of the fucking, it's not crazy, right? So like you aren't going to be punished for being a fucking angry person as an infantry guy. So it kind of masks a lot of that shit, and it almost incentivizes it because it's like looked at as a cool thing or funny or good, you know. I got to be honest, I didn't see a problem until I had kids. And that's just the God's honest truth. I didn't see a problem, and I didn't even know there was a problem. I mean, I became a drill sergeant in 2012, and therein lies another problem: is being a drill sergeant incentivizes being a dickhead.
Right.
Like you're not wrong for screaming at people and being angry and being the disgruntled, salty, freaking old veteran guy. You know, like everything is looked at like some kind of cool trope. Like everything is popular.
Yeah. I mean, if, as a drill sergeant, it'd be looked at in a kind of an odd manner if you weren't that or you didn't act like that.
Could, yeah. But it wasn't. But I guess the main point is you weren't looked at weird.
Yeah.
Like it didn't stick out if you were a fucking asshole. You know what I mean? So and you were kind of praised a little bit for being an asshole. Like it was, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, I remember coming home one day and, you know, you learn to deal with shit, right? And I think that's why I did so many deployments, first off, is I had a choice. So when I think after the second deployment, maybe, excuse me, they had this thing called stabilization, and you could opt, you could sign up for unit stabilization or station stabilization or something, because the problem they were having at the very beginning of the war was that people were coming back from like 12 months, let's say 12-month deployment. They were getting PCS'd and deploying immediately. So they would only get back. They would only get back.
The stop loss.
No, stop loss is when your unit comes down on orders and then you can't get out or you can't move. This is where like you stalls go, you deploy, you come back last month, you PCS to fucking Washington. Washington's deploying in a month. You ain't got no time home.
Yeah, there's no break.
No break.
Right.
And so people were falling into that. And there were complaints, like the wives were complaining, and like the veterans themselves were like complaining. Like there was just problems with it, and rightfully so, because that's kind of a shitty deal, right? So they started this stabilization deal where overseas you could sign up for 1 year boots on ground. 1 year from boots on ground, you can stabilize your unit to where you can't PCS. The Army can't move you to somewhere else, because that's what the Army would do. Oh, you come back and the Army would be like, you know what? Fucking Kentucky needs people, you know, and they would just fucking move you to Kentucky. And by the way, Kentucky's fucking deploying, but they didn't care. And so I would sign up for stabilization, but by the end of that year of stabilization, I'm fenced in for the next deployment. Okay, and fenced in is when you get within like 90 days or whatever days of the next deployment, they will fence your unit in to where nobody can leave. and like at all, it's like a fence, like a picture of fence, and so you're stuck. And I purposely did that because after a while, man, over there makes more sense than over here. In the chaos, there is an order that doesn't exist over here. And you are a professional and know everything about your kind, or know a lot about your fight. You're more confident, and everything makes more sense over there than over here. And I tell people all the time, it's the same. It's like, how can you go to an 80,000 people fucking football game, but you can't go to a fucking 15,000 person carnival? It's like, well, there are rules at that football game.
Yeah,
there are no rules at that carnival.
It's almost structured in a way.
It is 100%.
To some degree. Like, it's like, for me, I can go to concerts where there's a shit ton of people, but I'd rather go to Walmart at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
than 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the ability to do that, so I have to force myself to go because Walmart's no longer 24 hours. But if that was an option, I would 100% rather do that.
Yeah. So you wind up doing, that's why I did it. That's the only reason why I went all those times. It has nothing to do with anything cool. It was over here. I failed so bad.
Right.
I was such a bad person. I didn't fit in. I'd be a bad father. I'd be a bad boyfriend, a bad husband. I'm fucking up everywhere. I'm waking up late. I got headaches. I can't do this. All this shit. And it's like, over here, I'm weak and I look like shit. Over there, I look like a hero. And over there, everything's planned and I know what I'm looking at. And I'm looking at, I'm somebody important and everything makes sense. And so just keep me over there. That way I'm not fucking anybody's life up over here. And I feel better about myself over there.
Right.
And the suck doesn't matter. The suck doesn't matter because everybody else is sucking with you.
Exactly.
Right.
And after one deployment, and after a handful of deployments, it's just another day.
That's right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So I was a lot like you. So I came home from my 06-07 deployment to Iraq and immediately said, yeah, I don't work over here. I don't work in the civilian life. I don't work in the the day-to-day.
Oh, as a medic.
Right. So yeah. I don't work in this, like, because when you're home as a medic, you don't have a job.
That's right. You're training.
Right. You're training to do the job that you've already successfully done under the most
extreme circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. So when they came around to everybody and was like, hey, do you want to volunteer for a deployment? Dude, my hand went whoop-pow.
Yeah.
Like immediately up. Like, yeah, I'm gone. Like, send me. Like, I know medics are shorthanded. We're shorthanded on because at this time, medics in general were a critical MOS.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did, and I was a lot like you. When I'm home, I was messing up left and right.
Mm-hmm.
I was showing up to formation late. I was, not doing the things I should have been doing. I was out partying all night, drinking because let's be honest, you drink because your buddies are going to drink. Mm-hmm. They're dealing with the same shit you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So you go out, you drink, and you go on a bender. And then before you know it, it's 3 a.m. on the morning of a PT test. And you're running a PT test and puking your brains out on the 2-mile run. Like,
absolutely.
It's just what you're doing.
Yeah.
Somebody's running behind you saying, why does it smell like pure alcohol back here?
How you didn't give yourself a fucking IV, I don't know.
Well,
you had this shit available.
Well, the club closes at 3 o'clock. So, you're like.
Facts, dude. Facts. The Pedialyte and the fucking lactated ringers, dude. Fucking
Exactly. So I completely understand what you're talking about. You know, you don't work here, but over there you are somebody.
Yeah.
Like over there,
you're a hero.
Over there, everything makes sense because there's structure, there's order, there's a way of things, a way to do things and a way not to do things.
That's right.
But over here, you got to deal with civilians. You got to deal with, motherfuckers who've never been overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And either you choke somebody and go to jail or you deploy. Like that was the option.
Somebody bitching about your boots. Like, come on, man. Get the fuck out of here. Like,
right. Right. So you've got past all your deployments. Mm-hmm. I imagine at this time your body is beaten, mm-hmm. bruised. So were you injured? Is that why you went to a different, like you reclassed right after at some point or no?
Yeah. So
what did you reclass to after drill sergeant?
So I got banged up, just over the deployments, and everything was fine, or at least as long as you don't get looked at, everything's fine. You become a drill sergeant. As a drill sergeant, you get civilians for your medics. So at your TMCs, you have civilians, which are just a little more fucking honest, and caring per se, than the PAs and shit at the regular TMCs. And so these guys are like, hey, dude, and it's not just me, there's just a lot of folks, because 2 other drill sergeants had at the same time, like, had it happen too. Is you find out, oh, by the way, you're fucked up and you just ain't been saying shit. You know what I mean? It usually has something to do with something structural, like your back, shit like that's pretty common, right? And that's what, just a combination of things. And I requested, instead of getting kicked out, like, in a med board, because they had to get med boarded. I was like, I was pissed because I was like, you got this fucking pogue over here sitting at this goddamn desk. I was like, you gonna tell me I can't do 5 more years and retire as a pogue? Like, this guy ain't doing shit, in my mind, right? I'm not fucking, I don't know what this guy does. But I'll tell you what he ain't doing. You know what I mean? It's anything the fuck I'm doing over here. I could do that for another 5 years. And they were like, maybe. We'll see. So, I went through this process called a MAR2 process. And they reclassed me. And I didn't have any. I had a wish list. You get like a little top 3 or whatever. It has nothing to do with what they're going to give you, by the way. They should just get rid of it. I don't even know why they ask you. But I became a transportation management coordinator, which is an 88 November for the Army folks. Because, by the way, nobody in the Army knows anything but an 88 mic. But, and that's basically like, I went to a 3-star command at an Air Force base in South Carolina. Prior to that, though, funny story real quick, I was a senior infantry drill sergeant at Fort Benning, Georgia. Okay. Within a week, I got the email, and within a week, they're basically like, hey, Friday, report in to fucking AIT at fucking Fort Lee, Virginia. So I had to go to AIT, which is like your, I don't know, A school, your fucking
MOS
your
school.
Your MOS school. Yeah. I had to go to MOS school as an E7 infantry senior drill sergeant. I'm showing up with privates that just graduated basic training, and these guys,
Lord.
these posts, okay, and it was not fucking cool. Day zero is obviously like a height and weight, like PT test, like, you know, all this shit, like, you know. These guys are sitting out here on the basketball court. Now, if you just in your head imagine a bunch of freaking kids in a row sitting like Indian style on the fucking ground with their fucking untuck your shirt, wrap it around your knees, pull your fucking arms inside your shirt and tuck your head inside because it was a little nippy outside.
Oh, they're cold.
Yes, absolutely. So me, I get out of my, you understand, like I was just fucking people. Like, yes. All right. So I get out of the street, I get out of my car and I'm tearing ass. You know what I mean? I'm just like, get the fuck, you know, like I'm just tearing through this. These people are looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? The cadre comes out. They're all E6s. They got hands in their jackets, like coming out and doing. I don't know about anybody else, but you don't put your hands in your pockets. That's not what those pockets are for.
That's not what pockets are for.
No, fuck no. Right? Those hands are made to fall off. And so, get your fucking hands out of your pockets, guy. Like all this shit. And they're like, who the fuck are you talking to? I'm talking to you, motherfucker. Like, and so we're going at it. And they took their first sergeant and the commandant pulled me up to be like, listen, man, this is not normal. And you got, okay, do me a favor. Just don't talk to our people. Okay. Just act like they don't exist. Show up to class whenever you're supposed to show up to class. We'll give you your own housing over here across post. You freaking show up to the classes and then you graduate and move about your business. I don't even know why they assigned an E7 to freaking base training or you know, MOS school. That was my MOS school. And then I went to the Shaw Air Force Base, South Carolina.
That's wild that they made you do that as an E7 with a bunch of privates.
Apparently it wasn't supposed to happen. And somehow it got through. But,
so ironically enough, though, that's not uncommon because when I went through 68 Whiskey School at Fort Sam, our reclassed prior service people, because you got to think in 2004, medics were at the all-time low list. Like that was the MOS they were pushing. So if you got higher than a 60 GT score, and you went on like an open contract in the Army, well, guess what? You were about to become a 60. You're about to become a 68 Whiskey because it was that and 88 mics. Those were the two.
Oh, 88 mics, man. Truck drivers, by the way.
Those were the two MOSs. If you went on an open contract, that's what you were getting. And so they asked me at MEPS, they're like, so what do you want to be? I was like, well, shit, medic sounds awesome because when I get out, I can go and do medical shit, right? So I show up to AIT after graduating basic, and there's an E6 in the classroom with us. Like having to do the same shit, stand at parade rest, go to formation, like all the same shit that we're having to do. But this guy's got a combat patch. Mm-hmm. This guy's prior 11 Bravo, like going through AIT all over again. So it wasn't uncommon. It really wasn't. We had E6s, E5s. We had a corporal, which funny story. He went into AIT as a corporal, came out of AIT as a PB2. So, yeah.
Sounds like a success story.
Sounds like a conjugal type.
Oh, yes. It was most definitely. Most definitely.
And that's what's crazy. So like in the Marine Corps, you can lat move or reclass for you guys, but you don't see a lot of senior staff NCOs doing that. E6s, E7. Occasionally you'll get an E6, like if you have an E5 that lat moved, got promoted in route, sure. Like when I went through my basic school, we had one E4, and then the rest of us were all E2s, E3s.
Well, I know it's MOS dependent in the Army. There are certain MOSs you can't, and there's a difference between like you choosing to move. So you're not technically allowed to just generically change your MOS a lot of
Right.
times once you reach a certain point. And so I don't really know what the fucking standard says about the medical shit versus, whatever. But they had never had an E7 go through that school. So they are not used to having E7s. Like they don't like it. And I got to be honest. I mean, if I think about it like just logically, probably shouldn't have happened. What am I going to like in the Army, and I don't know about the Marines, but in the Army, you're kind of expected to know like everybody's job below you.
Yeah.
Like you just are. Like you should be able to go teach that guy fucking this douchebag down here, like, you come over here, let me give you a 5-minute block of instruction on how to do this shit, right? You can't do that if you reclass as an E7. I got privates that are just more skilled at that shit than I am. You know what I mean? It's like, but they get told to shut up in color sometimes too, and we all got told to shut up in color when they reclassed me to that. So I didn't want to be there. They any more than they wanted me to be there. I can tell you that.
Makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
I know for the Marine Corps, it's pretty much once you hit a certain rank, you can't necessarily lat move into a different MOS unless it's considered like a an up, or not necessarily an upgrade, but like a step up. Like, so I was in the intelligence community, and so CI, for example, is a lat move only MOS. You can't enlist in the Marine Corps as counterintelligence. Can't do it. However, you can go another Intel MOS, or you can go pretty much whatever, and then you can change over. So that's one of those exceptions. But yeah, I mean, you're pretty much, once you hit a certain rank, you should be able to tell everybody below you how to do your job.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
and by the way, that fucks you in the civilian world.
Yes.
Just to throw it out there, because they don't operate the same way.
No. I mean, prime example. So like I was in the intelligence community, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would think real world experience would translate.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. Now I could sign up to go, or no, this was like 6 or 7 years ago. I could sign up to go work for a governmental agency as a deployer, get deployed to the Middle East. But guess what? I'm there in a support billet. I'm not allowed to carry a weapon. Sorry, I'm not doing it. You're not sending me to the Middle East without some form of protection. And my computer is not a weapon.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, as being a medic, so the only job a medic, and I think it's kind of crazy, the only job a medic can do civilian wise is be an EMT basic.
EMT basic?
EMT
not even a
basic.
paramedic?
No. So when you go through AIT for 68 Whiskey, you get certified as a nationally registered EMT B.
Okay.
You are not registered as a paramedic. You're not registered as an intermediate. And most states don't recognize EMTBs anymore. So it's either intermediate or paramedic. So when I got out of the Army, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go be an EMT, right?
Mm-hmm. No.
The only thing I could do was drive an ambulance.
Nice.
I could do vitals, CPR, rescue breathing, but all the things I had been trained to do in the Army, like
couldn't do.
Give an IV, throw in quick clot. Really? By the way, civilians don't use quick clot, by the way.
TC3.
So right. So any of the things that I had learned as a combat medic, I couldn't do. So for me, I had no options when I got out.
Yeah.
Zero options. So it was back to the drawing board, so to say. Like so yeah. Wild. So you get med. Now yours wasn't a medical retirement. Yours was a
Mine's a medical.
actual.
No, mine's
Yours
a
is a
medical.
medical. Okay.
So at first I got the MAR2 and I was able to reclassify to 88 November. Then a year later, so we're talking about, I reported to Shaw Air Force Base in January of 2015. So I guess a year and a half later. Anyway, it was about a year later when I got told, nah, you can't stay, because it was part of this budget cuts. Like the second term of President Obama, they were slashing budgets and shit. So the sequester is what they called it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they typically do, if you're not aware, is they'll lower thresholds for things. So when they need people in the military, they lower standards. When they need people out of the military, they lower thresholds. Thresholds to kick people out. They can't just hand you a pink slip like they can an officer. But they can say, oh, well, now we only allow people with no DUIs, for example. That wasn't what I had. But my injuries, you know what I'm saying, now became non-deployable. And you can no longer stay in the military if you're non-deployable at that point. So boom, initiate med board immediately. So like that's what kicked all that off. So when they kicked it off, I had no idea what was going to happen. There was no talks, there was no guarantees, there was no nothing. So I was basically kind of freaking out a little bit, to be honest, because I had planned. I mean, we're right about 15 years in the military, and that was my plan. I wanted to retire in the military. I had a wife, 2 kids. Like, I mean, this was I thought I was making great decisions, and I was like, a career. And luckily, or not, however you want to look at it, all of my shit that had happened with me, all of my like evacs and shit overseas, were documented in my medical record. So they were automatically kind of processed. And at that time, by the way, I benefited from the hardships that were happening in the VA wait lines, because there were people dying at the time in the VA wait lines. I don't know if you remember, like 12, 13, 14, like that time frame. Like there were literal people passing, waiting for their appointment times. Like that's how backed up they were. And it was a big, like Eric Shinseki was the fucking secretary of the VA, all this shit. And like, so what the Army decided to do was, and I'm assuming other people too, but what the Army decided to do was, if you were getting medically discharged from the military, you had to go through all of your VA stuff prior to them releasing you. So all of your CMP appointments, all of that shit was done while you were in the Army prior to them releasing you, so that you weren't clogging up wait lines outside the military. And I showed up to the VA clinic. She already had all my shit printed out. And I mean, I was 100% just off rip. And so I don't personally know the struggle that a lot of people go through with trying to get their 100% or their stuff done, because it was just kind of done for me, like bam. So because of the amount of things that had happened to me overseas, they gave me full retirement. They took care of me in all aspects. Right,
because you had enough points, basically deployment points or whatever they considered that at the time, for a full retirement.
No, they go off of, so when you get med boarded from at least the Army, it's got to be a military thing, not just an Army thing. You get two percentages.
Mm-hmm. It's a military thing.
You get branch, and then you get VA, right? So mine, for example, is 80 Army, 100 VA, right? The branch specific percentage is what is preventing you from continuing to serve. They don't give a shit about anything else. It's not that they don't give a shit, but they don't count anything else. It doesn't matter if it's service connected or not. They only count the percentage of what it is that's preventing you from continuing to serve. What is getting you kicked out? Those issues is what the percentage is that you get for them. If that percentage is is 30% or more, they give you retirement. If it's 20% or less, they give you a severance. That 30% or more, you get retirement, right? So you get the blue card, you get your retiree, you get TRICARE for life, you get all this stuff. Now, that's a regular medical retirement, right? On top of that, in 2006, they started a program called CRSC. Okay, I can't remember what the acronym stands for. It's like combat related special compensation or something like that.
That's it.
Yeah. So, and that is basically if you are waiving your military retirement in lieu of VA pay because your VA disability pay is higher, then your percentage of your injuries that were from combat related injuries, you get back from your retirement. So they pay you back a portion of your retirement fee that you're waiving because you can only get one, either VA disability or the medical retirement pay. And almost always the VA is higher. So you're going to, get that, but you get a percentage. So I was 80, remember, 80 Army, but 70 of that was combat. And so I got almost all of it back from, my regular retirement pay. So I pretty much have all of my retirement pay and my disability pay. Only because of that CRSC program though. And so that's why I don't really have a nasty feeling, nasty taste in my mouth for the whole thing. They kind of square me away. They didn't tell me about CRSC. Somebody else told me about CRSC, and I had to apply for it. And I got it and all that stuff. The Purple Heart helped for that, by the way. But it was a rough time. It was a very rough time. And even still, I have no doubt in my mind I would have made 8 before I retired. And I wish I would have got the opportunity to do that. I feel like I would have liked to do that. It's not that much more money, you know what I mean? But I feel like I would have liked to have done that. But other than that, man, out of what happened, I was probably a little better off than most.
Yeah. So you're out.
Yeah.
You're doing the civilian thing. So what was your first civilian job after you got out?
The job was working in the college, IRSC. So I got out, and getting out though. So lead up that, you got to back up. As I was I told you I worked at a 3-star command, right? My group was pretty much E6 and above. E6 or E7 and above. There we had an E6 in there. All of the S6, the computer guys, okay, were civilians. And I knew that I have a lot of physical injuries. So I knew that, if I'm going to get out and start a new career, I don't want to get 10, 12, 13 years into this and not be able to continue another fucking career. You know what I mean? I need something I can do into my 50s and 60s. And, so I'm like IT, right? That's got job security. That's the future. They're not fucking, Kevin Sorbo's not fucking running cable. You know what I mean? So I went down to those guys and I'm like, hey, I want to get into IT, but I know there's like a billion freaking jobs in IT. What the fuck should I focus on? I want to make some good money. I also want some job security. But I don't want to be the guy in the closet running the fucking wires through the ceiling. I don't want to be that guy. And they told me cybersecurity. So when I came home, that's what I did. I got my bachelor's degree from IRSC in cybersecurity and IT management. And while I was there, though, I started a work study. I was a work study, which, if you don't know, if you're using the GI Bill, you can become a work study. and you can get paid to help out the office. Like where you get your veterans benefits in the college, you can actually work there, but you're not like a full-on employee, but you can make extra money. It's pretty good. Started as a work study, got the part-time position there, doing what I was doing as a work study. And then when I graduated, we started the first military and veteran services department at the college. That didn't exist.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I worked doing that. That's how I met the VFW, actually, because I started a chapter of the Student Veterans of America at the college. And they were looking to get donations to go to one of the big meetups in Orlando. So we went down to the VFW to see if they could give a donation so these kids can go to this thing. And that's how I met the VFW. So did that until I became maybe not so. I wanted to do something else. Felt like it was a little possibly overworked, underpaid type stuff. Not necessarily horrible, you know what I mean? But I felt like it was just a lot, and I knew that I wanted to make more money, and so now I work for the VA. So,
what do you do at the VA?
IT. I'm in
IT.
IT. I'm more on the business side of IT, though. I'm not the guy with the wires. I help manage, more of like a project manager, program manager kind of. Yeah, I help manage contracts, budgets.
Okay.
Sure. So I'm definitely not like in charge. I'm just assisting a group of very smart people and doing some things. So
and getting paid to do it as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but that's not all that you do. I mean, you also have your hand in some other ventures.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been helpful to me. I mean, I know that I've been able to pick up the phone and call you and say, "Hey, Chris, so
he does that a lot.
How do I fill out this IRS form for my 1023EZ for this nonprofit that I'm doing?" So, I mean, but you have experience with that. You have experience with nonprofits. You have experience with, the nonprofit world, being part of the VFW and everything. So, is there anything special that you're doing right now outside of the VFW, or?
I think it's all special, to be honest. I don't necessarily, a lot of times I don't like talking about it because it makes me think I'm just stroking my own joint. But it's kind of like, it's fun. And it is needed. You don't see a lot of us in the VFW.
Yes.
That's right.
That is facts. I'm just to touch on that. I am one of, so the VFW that I actually am a member at, it's a pretty large one for the area, comparatively. So I'm one of 9, I believe, veterans that are between 30 and 40. And
that's a lot.
That's out of like 250.
Yeah.
Hey, so Bear, out of our VFW, there's probably maybe 5, 4?
No, it's getting more, dude. We're up to like 27% that are below the age of 50.
Yes,
I
count below 50 just to give me a little extra oomph. I think we only have like 3. I think we have 2 people maybe that are below 40. But
me, I'm 1.
How old are you?
I'm 38.
Shut your face. Yeah. Well, we got 2 active members then. You and Charlie. Charlie's 39. But anyway, you know, the problem is, or at least my opinion about what the problem is
And we've talked about this.
everything. It's about the image, right?
Mhm.
I can tell you this, right? Not everybody's been to a VFW. Okay, you could get 50 of us in here, and you can say who's been to a VFW. 10 of them are going to raise their hand, maybe, right? And it's not going to be from their own accord. They went to an event maybe one time.
Yeah, their buddy got married and used the
That's right.
hall
That's
as a reception. Yep.
That's right.
Believe it or like
They belong to a motorcycle club that had a house like that.
weird. Weird. Funny how that works.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
But the issue is everybody has gone to a VA hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to know what the image is of the VFW? Look at that fucking smoking area box that's fucking sitting outside of every goddamn VA hospital.
Yes.
That little fucking enclosed like smoking joint right there, the little fucking Kwanzaa hut of smokers. You know what I mean? And the mean mugs that you get walking by that thing, that is the image that young people have of the VFW.
Yes, right? I would completely agree.
That
it's not an attractive location for our age group to hang out.
That's right. Not only that though, double it up with let them come in there one time and get proven right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say this: since I became a member at this, I've never attended a meeting.
Yeah. See, that's a problem.
I have. I don't want to say I don't have any desire because I would love to be a part of a change and fixing all of that.
Sure.
But a lot of the younger guys that are there are only members of that specific post because they have a bar.
And that might be it. But you have to, I tell everybody, keep everything in context. A bar is a method of raising money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The way, I mean, that's just is what it is. You don't have to go in there. Like, because one of the things that we do is that they've only relied on the bar forever, and that's why the place has just gone downhill.
Mm-hmm.
And only over the last year and a half or so. And it's not really, I don't claim it, but it's like because we started doing other events, we started bringing other entertainment in there and other things happening. Has the money started coming in and people spend money? Yeah, they'll spend money on the bar, but I got to be honest, man, the bar's solvent. You know what I mean? The bar gets paid for by the bar. For us, it's the shit that goes on in the back. It's the 50-50s. It's the lottery trees. It's the gun raffles. It's those things.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can't get you to see that we have a fucking gun raffle if you don't come.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? I could go up to you and be like, hey, listen, man, I'm looking for, donation for this and the other. There's a thing called donor fatigue. And it's like when you have a certain population in a certain area, there are so many people asking that same person for donations that they wind up looking at places that ask for donations in a negative light. And so they don't care what your mission is at that point. You could be solving cancer and they don't want to give you a dime because they've been hit up by 15 people before you. And it doesn't matter. And so the issue is give people something that they smile at, give some people they enjoy it. And we were talking about it outside the VFW the other day, is like the VFW, I don't care what it is. You want to talk about programs, you want to talk about suicide prevention, do you want to talk about homelessness, you want to talk about benefit help, you want to talk about all that. Nothing compares to what can happen in a conversation sitting outside on the porch.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing can compare to that. And it's not written in a book. It's not on a flyer. You won't see it on the VFW main page or the Legion. And all these things can happen at another place too. The Legion is good, all this. But if you go in there and it looks like a retirement community having a Canasta World Championship, you know what I mean? Like nobody wants to go there.
Yeah.
But if you come sit outside ours and you see me, you see Frank, you see Stalls, if you see some people that look like you sitting out there, then you'll want to come have a seat and maybe have a talk.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what happens at the one where I go. More often than not, the people are in the bar, but they're not drinking.
Mm-hmm.
They do karaoke, they do raffles and stuff like that, but they don't go to the meetings. And it's not necessarily because it's a meeting and nobody wants to go to the meeting. It's all the people that go to the meeting are older. It takes forever. And we've tried. Well, I say we, but some of those guys have tried to get in there and say, "Hey, can we do the one here does a lot for the community. They do a food pantry, a food drive every Saturday. If you get a speeding ticket in the county, you know where you're doing your community service? At the VFW, passing out food for 2 days. And
Wow.
so they do a lot of stuff there, but the way that they market themselves to people our age is not necessarily where it should be. They're not quite there yet. The people are there, but the people in charge of doing that aren't quite to that level yet. They don't. They're still doing the old school way of stuff, and there has been some change. I mean, in the 6 or 7 years that I've been here, there's definitely a lot of positive change. It's moving, but also with that, well, there's a chapter or a post that's not closed down, but they only have like 3 members. There's another one that in the area, the American Legion's closed down. And then there's another one that's right on the verge of that.
That's crazy. I would say that the issue lies in young people taking leadership roles. That's what the issue is. So you talk about going to the meeting, that's where all the decisions get made.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just to be candid, you can't bitch if you don't show up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're not willing to show up and wait or deal with the inconvenience of older people taking too long, then you don't really want it. And that's just the facts, because every year we have elections, and I guarantee nobody is beating down the doors at the VFW to be the commander or to be the quartermaster. I can tell you right now. I mean, you'll have some people that want to do it because they just want a special hat or something sometimes. But what I'm saying, younger folks, you don't have it. It's an inconvenience. That means you're committing time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of time, like me, I got a family. You know what I mean? I just know how to multitask. But a lot of people don't want to commit to that because they don't know if they'll be able to keep those commitments. They don't want to wish away their weekends for the next year, those types of things. And that's what it's going to take in order to make an impact. Show up and make something happen, or shut up. And that's what I tell folks. Like, don't come into me bitching that we don't do anything when I ain't seen you show up to anything significant ever. You know what I mean? If you want us to do something, I want to hear what you got. And I'll tell everybody in the post the same thing. I promise you. Is if you have a great idea, bring it to the fore. Mm-hmm. Let the membership hear it, and boom, and we'll make a vote. And I don't care I don't even get a vote as a commander. I don't get a vote. So bring it to what I can do is I can get you a spot. I can get you on the floor. And let the membership vote. And by the way, you have a vote on your own shit. You know what I mean? It's like, get it in. Talk to people before the meeting. Be like, hey, tonight I'm going to bring this up to vote on. Do I have your fucking vote? Like, do the work that's required to get what you want done. We got money, and you have a say-so in how we spend it, just like everybody else does. Mm-hmm. So if you want us to give $2,000 over to Sarah's Kitchen, or $3,000 to Fuck Boys Donuts over here because they fucking wash veterans' cars. I don't care what it is. You have a say so. But if you don't show up and ask for it, I don't want to hear anybody bitching about it. I don't know it exists until you say it. And so that's the problem. That's the biggest problem is, how do I get these people? I can't talk like that to people, by the way, because then they don't want to show up.
Right.
But that's really it. Show up, put up with the inconvenience because we're worth it. You know, our group of people are worth it. We're worth the inconvenience. We are worth the waste of time. We are worth the ass pain required to deal with older people sometimes to get shit through. We're worth it. And if you don't show up because of those things, you're saying that your convenience is more important than the mission.
Right.
And then at that point, the mission is worthless, and I don't want to hear it. And that's really the bottom line of things. And that's a cold-hearted truth, but it is a truth.
Right.
Because I sacrifice almost half my life now to doing these things for, and it's for me. I get something out of it. I'm not going to say it's completely selfless. I get something out of it. I like doing it. So it's not selfless completely because I enjoy it, but I see an area where I can be good at something and impacts, something in a good way. And that brings me back to why I stayed overseas so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I was this guy over there. And over here, I can be that guy doing this job. And it makes me feel like I'm important. It makes me feel not like in the eyes of other people, but like to me. And
Right.
You know what I mean? So
you have that sense of purpose now.
Yeah, that's all it is. And I wish that other people do it. And conveying that in a way that's not threatening or not intimidating or not like off-putting, because we got a lot of bitches out there.
Yeah. No, there's a guy that that I do events with every now and then that goes to the VFW, and he'd make a hell of a commander, right? That is his personality, basically to a T with what you just described. But he doesn't want to take the time, doesn't want to do it. He's like, I'll go. He supports, but he just doesn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't want to say he's like a leader, right? But a lot of people look up to him and respect his opinion because of what he's done, who he is in the community. Everybody pretty much follows suit. And it's unfortunate, It really is. The downside, like for me, I would do it in a heartbeat. The downside is the county that I live in does not have a post. The post that I belong to is the one that's across the street from my office. It's the same one that my father-in-law is a member of. I support it, but again, it's over an hour and a half from where I live. So it's not necessarily conducive. I mean, I could make it work, but some of the stuff that they have got scheduled, it's like, well, I'm either going to I get home at midnight 4 nights a week just because it's
that's not good. Yeah.
But trying to find people to do that, like I've got 2 guys that I work with that are veterans that I've both had, hey, go join the VFW, go do the Marine Corps League. I think we only have one American Legion in the county or really general area.
That's
and but getting people out there, right? Telling them, hey, go do this. It's relatively inexpensive comparatively to things we could spend our money on. Like, go do it. Go show your support. Like, they offer a lot of benefits to people. And they're kind of overlooked in some degrees for some of the stuff that they do that they do offer people, like the food drive. I never knew the VFW did it, or at least the one here did it the way they do it until I went there. And he's like, hey, we've got, 5 or 6 sheds full of non-perishable food every Saturday. As long as you're a veteran or somebody in your family's a veteran, they go first. And then he's like, the community goes afterwards. And he's like, we either go till this time or we go till we're out. And we do it every Saturday religiously.
Mm-hmm.
Except for major holidays, but
the VFW and the American Legion doesn't just give a place for veterans to go and hang out and get active in the community. It gives them a place to connect with other veterans.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of us who have been through what we've been through, connecting with other veterans is an important thing. It allows us to have that outlet with other people. So I love being a part of the VFW. I know, Chris, you're probably mad at me because I don't go to any meetings, but
No,
your meetings
I
are usually on the same night we have church. So
yeah, I don't have anything to say about anybody unless they start saying, if they start complaining and they don't show up to meetings, that's when I have something to say. I encourage attendance, but if you're not out there just complaining all the time and you never show up to meetings, then I'm not saying anything.
right. So the one thing I do love, I don't know what happened with Unapologetic. I think he froze up. But the one thing I love about what you do at the VFW post in Fort Pierce is that the bar is separate from where you guys hold all of your events.
That's right.
And it's kind of it's purposefully that way because you want to get people, and this is just my outward look on it. I don't know if it's the actual true thing.
Sure.
But you want to pull people together in a gathering area rather than around the bar.
Well, we have to have a closed off location for meetings. We can't have
An open.
we can't have a meeting with non VFW members, and we don't want to shut down the bar to kick veterans out because
Right.
we allow other club members to come to our bar too.
Well, what I'm talking about is like karaoke. Like your karaoke is all done out in the in the hall. It's not done in the bar area.
That's right.
When you guys do events like Queen of Hearts and Show Me the Money, it's all done out there. It's away
Every
from the
event
bar.
is done out there in the hall.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what does the future bring for Bear?
For me,
yeah.
Well, I hope I maintain my job, first off. I don't know if I'm going to get laid off here.
That's kind of important, I suppose.
Yeah. No, but for me, just another year of doing the same. Just continuing to build the organization. I'm not empathetic. I'll tell you that. That is a vice of mine. I'm not empathetic. I don't care about a lot of shit, and I should, but I can't. I just don't connect with people that way. But what I am good at is work and time. And if I can build a place that invites people who are empathetic to deal with things, that's what I'm doing. I want a place where everybody comes. And the VFW is very bad about this, by the way. We pull from a very small group of veterans. In the veteran population, you have to have gone over and served overseas in a combat zone. A lot of veterans that haven't done that can take that kind of the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
A part of me wants to say, fucking get over it. But I also need people to know that it's not about what you did. It's about what you would have done if you were asked. And almost all non-combat people would have gone over had their unit been sent. Nobody signs up for the military and says, you know what? I'm controlling where the fuck I'm going. I'll go if I feel like it, and I'll let you know when I'm ready. Like, nobody does that.
Yeah, stick me in a corner and let me stay there. I don't want to go nowhere else.
So I don't really believe in treat people differently based on what you've done. You've served, you served. I'm not the guy. Everybody is welcome in the VFW. Yeah, I can't maybe sign you up for a membership, but let's be honest, you wouldn't come to the meetings even if you were a member.
Right.
But you can participate in every single thing we have to offer aside from attending a meeting and voting. And I think it's important. I think it's important for the people to know that. So over the next year will be me enforcing that. I'm still going to maintain my district senior vice position. The next year, I'll be the district commander as well. And I don't know about doing anything at the state level yet. I don't know. I don't know if I have enough time for that shit. But getting more people to come out to our post and realize that this ain't your fucking granddad's VFW. And I mean that with respect. You know, I don't mean that like your granddad was a fucking piece of shit.
Right.
I mean, this ain't the old smoky bar that everybody just showed up to grab ass and smoke cigarettes and fucking drink beer. Like, this is a place that's yours. Like, you can make it if you want to. You can show up here on a meeting night. You can be the commander of this place. You can make this place anything you want to make this place, and it can be a place for you. And I don't know how I'm going to get that into everybody's fucking skull, but I'm going to do it. And it's only a matter of time. I mean, we like I said, when I started off, I think we were less than 20% below the age of 50. And I'm not talking through attrition. People ain't dying off yet. Like, Vietnam veterans aren't dying off in droves yet, right? But we're, I think, over 27% now below the age of 50. And when I survey these people, a lot of them joined because they saw that we have younger leadership, that we have younger people, that we do things and this and the other. They've gone to other VFWs, they've gone to Legions and stuff, and they just did not feel welcome. They didn't feel like they belonged, or they've been mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
And they come here and they have a great fucking time because they know, like I tell them as soon as they walk in the door, I'm like, hey, how you doing? If you have any problems, you let me know. Bear, I'm the commander. You just let me know if you got any problems. Bartenders know. Everybody knows. So that's my way of doing something. It ain't the empathetic way. And if you talk to me about your problems, I might not handle it the best freaking way. You know, I'm not the guy. But hopefully you're sticking around sitting at the table. Somebody's going to be that guy for you. And usually that's the case. As a group, we're able to handle that freaking job. But me, I'm a little more cut and dry than your average Joe. I'm more like, hey, just stop fucking bitching kind of guy. Because usually it's some bullshit. Or they had 550 cals as they charged up the hill or some bullshit. I'm just like, but it's a place, man. And it's a place for everybody. So that's what's on the docket for me. Be a better me this next year, and hopefully that makes somebody a better somebody.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. Well, Barrett, man, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you coming on for our unofficial launch of the podcast.
Absolutely.
By the way, if anybody is keeping track, Shadur Sanders has not
Did
been
not.
picked and did not get picked today.
Did not.
So
not.
the slide continues.
I've been waiting for over an hour to say that.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so
I've got one thing for you. If you could give advice to anybody, either getting out of the military, retiring, or basically give somebody advice from your perspective, your experiences, to set them up for success on the outside, because for so many, that is a huge mental and physical struggle for them.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them to say, hey, this is what works for me. This is what I've seen. This is my experience. What would you say?
Take responsibility. You're going out into a world that is going to allow you to fail, and they are going to expect you to just not be successful. The word veteran is synonymous with disability and disabled nowadays. And it's okay in the world's eyes for you to fail and go homeless and go hungry and all this crap. And guess what? If they see a homeless veteran, they're going to be like, oh yeah, another homeless veteran. You know what I mean? If they see somebody commit suicide, oh, another, it's a damn. It's so normal. And being a college advisor for veterans, that's normally what veterans do first off, because they know they can get that BAH check while they go to college, right?
Mm.
They don't give a fuck what they're doing in college. They just want to get full time so they can get that BAH check. That's all they care about. That's mistake number one, right? So, and we're talking about E4 and below majority of the time. Like that's the majority of the veterans that get out, or the first contract E4 and below guys. Never really had a chance to be responsible for something, but be responsible for your actions, hold yourself accountable, and more importantly, to the other veterans that are already out, hold these veterans accountable. Don't allow them to fail. Don't allow them to look back at the man and say, it's not my fault. It's fucking society set me up. You've got free college. I don't know how many programs are out there to help veterans succeed. And yet you're just going to come out here and just fucking fail.
Mm-hmm.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable. You've been taught how to fucking talk to people. You've been taught how to work. You've been taught how to show up, right place, right time, right uniform. You can succeed at any job you do. Get the fuck out there, put in the work, make it happen. Hold people accountable, hold yourself accountable. So that's the main thing. That's what I would say.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bear, we're going to drop you down, and we're going to go ahead and do the outro of everything. But if you would, hang back.
Yeah.
And afterwards, we will we'll talk afterwards.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so that was
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, awesome guy. So Bear, for everybody who stuck around, awesome guy. I'm thankful to be able to call him a friend. And I think an awesome first guest for the unofficial launch of the podcast.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an incredible story, you know, like from somebody who was literally in boot camp or a few weeks removed from it in 9/11, like in the experience to experience active duty military life in the transition from 9/11 post 9/11. I mean, it's a moving story, and absolute great guest. We'll definitely have to have him back on sometime in the future. But with that, I appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, I'm Unapologetic.
And I'm Stalls, and for everybody who doesn't know, this podcast is brought to you by Heroes Media Group and Homefront Sit Rep Podcasts. And if you guys get a chance, one of our sponsors is Veteran Bikers for 22 a Day. It's a nonprofit organization that goes to help bring resources to veterans who are currently in mental health crisis, and also give financial assistance to families who have unfortunately had to put up with the veteran suicide of a family member. So go check the website out. It's vb422.com. Donate, do whatever you can. Thank you. God bless.
Later.